Here we are again. Welcome back to Mountain Biking in South East Queensland. I'm Lachie. I'm here with Oppy and a special guest who we'll introduce in a minute. Oppy, it's only been a couple of weeks. What's going on?
Yeah, we're getting in the swing of the things.
Yeah, we are keen to chat to lots of local awesome mountain bikers, and we've got another one here today. Following on from Mike Blewett a couple of weeks ago, who was an awesome chat, all things BQ and Australian mountain biking. But today we've got Cam Taylor. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I went and dug into my archives and found a few photos of you mountain biking at Hidden Vale. And I got as far back as probably 2017. I saw some photos, I think, of you out there on your mountain bike. But it appears you've been on a bike since you were much younger. and in an area not too far from here.
That's true. Yep, Mount Cotton, just down the road.
Yeah. So when is the first time that you picked up a bike?
Well, I think rode as a kid on a BMX in the driveway, like most people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think getting into riding seriously happened as an adult when I'd come back from America, a bit of an extended study abroad, and enjoyed too many hamburgers, needed a hobby, and decided that I'd pick myself up a mountain bike. It was a giant ATX 860. I still remember it's beautiful blue colour. Didn't know anything about bikes at the time, and took myself off and got lost in the bush a few times. And then I had that bike when I started working, and so I would ride to work, and it just so happened that my colleagues were all into mountain biking and triathlon, road cycling, and they used to give me a hard time because the bike was pretty pristine, and they looked down on me and they said, "We need to put some spray on mud on that bike because it's too clean." And so they took me out to Gap Creek. And that was my sort of first initiation. I remember hating the ride and wanted to throw the bike in the bin because these guys were disappearing off the trail, down the trail at 1,000,000 miles an hour, going around corners, and it was really hard actually. But that was my first foray, I guess, into mountain biking.
Yeah,
A baptism of fire at Gap Creek.
100%. And the trails back then were a little bit different to what they are now. There wasn't any flow or airflow. Back in the day, it was all hand cut. I remember.
What sort of era are we talking?
This would have been 2002.
Okay.
So I remember parking at Bilby Road, for those who know Gap Creek, and I still remember the trail names. It was Rogers and Roller Coaster. And yeah, it was a fun time. It was, whenever you're discovering something new, that's not something that happens every day. So it's simultaneously terrifying, but also amazing. And so, yeah, I don't know how I stuck at it because I didn't really enjoy it, but just kept going, and it turned into a passion.
That's awesome. I think some of any rider's best memories are when they first start the sport of mountain biking. Very, very vivid memories of discovering a whole new concept of riding, which is exciting. It's a very timely chat because I know you from events more recently that you've started to run. Oppy's been to a lot of events in SEQ. When did you start riding events yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was back in the early 2000s. I remember going to the Sunshine Series, XCO races, and that's another steep learning curve. And I think it just snowballed from there. I used to really enjoy the mountain bike marathons, and the thing I liked was that you could pack the car up, drive somewhere for the weekend with some mates, and explore some new trails. So I remember going to the Coffs Harbour Marathon, early Epics, Noosa Enduros, Otway Odysseys. Yeah, sort of any excuse. It was good because it would get you to somewhere that you might not ordinarily go. And holidays are always good when you've got a purpose. Like, it's cool to lie on the beach and read a book, but sometimes when you've got somewhere and you're going there for a reason, even if it's not like a performance reason or a racing reason, it just makes for a better experience. But things just snowball, and you start, you get a little bit more experience, you get a bit better, you start training, you do the 50K one, and then the next time you want to do the 100. And so it just becomes this almost like, not an addiction, but you want to get back to the next one. Sometimes you hate it at the time or shortly after, but a day or two goes by and you're looking for the next event, no matter how hard the day's been.
Classic type 2 fun.
That's it.
Fun after the fact.
Did you bump into Cam early days of riding around?
I was just thinking, like, I can't remember you coming out to many XCO races. I mean, I didn't do a lot of marathons apart from the, kind of traditional epic every so often. But
I don't think our paths ever directly crossed, but I do remember MTB Dirt forums back in the day. And that was sort of like the early internet, right, before social media. And there were all these personalities on there, and sometimes you'd rock up to a social ride and there'd be a few, faces that you could put names to. But that's when I first remember your name popping up on my radar.
In the sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was thinking about Gap Creek 2002 and, 2002.
2002,
yeah. Sorry. I'm getting my decades mixed up. And I was just thinking that was about 2 years before they formally adopted the trails there and started to formalise them. So, yeah, it was pretty goat tracks up and down hills and, off-piste. They were very rugged. That was kind of like the second coming of Gap Creek when it really started to take off. I was just thinking that's like trying to place the bikes in the period. So the Sunshine series of that time sort of had a bit more travel. Like there was more of a state series. It's now become more of a South East Queensland centric with an occasional. We might get as far as Gympie if we're lucky, but we used to go to Rocky and Bundaberg and Mackay and a lot further up. Did you ever get to any of those northern races?
I do remember going to some of those, tagging along with some mates. Used to ride out with a group from, is it Tony Carson?
TC. Tony Carson from TC's Bike Bar.
Now,
2 R's. Bike Bar.
He was a skilled dude on a bike. I remember being at the shop one day and seeing him go past. He was servicing a bike, took it outside to test ride, came past on the back wheel, thought, oh, that's cool. Disappears for a few minutes. Next minute he comes past on the front wheel. We had a good crew there, and that's who I sort of learnt the ropes from. We used to go to Gap Creek, Tuesday, Thursday mornings there for a while. I think it was $1 donation, and we'd do a skills session. And then, we'd go to some of the races. Yeah.
Yeah, the Riders Club.
That's it. Yeah,
it was an interesting time for clubs were a lot simpler. And you talk about that like $1. Like to join a club, you could join a club for $5. There was no license or racing license or fees. So clubs were much more informal and much easier to join. And you didn't have resources online or YouTube videos on how to do stuff. So if you weren't, that's how you learnt where to go, how to ride, and clubs were where it's at.
100%. There were no YouTube videos telling you, put your outside leg down as you went around a corner, or, use your elbows and knees as suspension. You just had to figure it out and learn from others and watch what they were doing. And I remember doing early Nebo, so I think, the South Boundary all the way to Nebo for a coffee and back. And, the first time doing that, I remember getting pushed, up the hills to get home because I was completely buckled. But it was all good fun. Yeah, we used to have trips too where we'd go out to Nango.
Nango, yeah.
They called that the Brass Monkey Tour because we'd go out in the middle of, July or June. So it was an introduction to, I guess what we call now is gravel riding or adventure riding, because we do the XCO stuff, but also anything that was dirt, we'd just ride on our mountain bikes. So, fire trails, backcountry roads. Yeah, and that was cool.
Yeah, I was thinking, I do remember getting out to Nanango, East Nanango State Forest. There's no trails left in that. They logged it all, but there used to be some magic, and there's still magic gravel out there, which is kind of your wheelhouse these days. You've they do say, like, gravel is just 90s mountain bikes reborn, but I mean...
True, yeah, with drop bars. But, the thing is, even when you're doing a gravel ride and you say you're in a place not like Nanango, like the mountain biker in you is still trying to sniff out the single track. So your head's on a swivel because every little cutout or, thing that disappears into the bush, you're like, oh, is that a bit of trail? And even if it's just a little wallaby track or maybe some moto track, and sometimes it's not worth it at all because it's rutted or disappears down to 40% gradient. But you kind of live for those moments of, trying to find a hidden gem.
I remember the first time on the BVRT, you go through those big cutout culverts or whatever it is where the train was cut through the side of a hill, and you just look up where the wallabies are running and follow the path up and go on the edge of the big giant cutout. It was good fun. There's something you said I've been waiting to come back to, and that was the MTB Dirt forums.
Yeah.
I remember that, but I think it's since gone. The site's completely gone.
It's archived on the internet if you want to look it up.
Yeah.
MTB DKNX was before MTB Dirt.
Right.
And the guys that sort of were involved in that took it to become MTB Dirt and became Steve Adern, I think, was the moderator and owner of the forum.
Okay.
And it
Rings a bell, but it's been a while since I've heard any of those names. Yep.
Yeah, there's a few people from back in the day on that forum that I still ride with, I still catch up with. So they don't go away. But it was wild times. I tell people the internet was free and true, and it didn't have pictures. My first experience on the internet, to throw right back, was in multi-user online chat groups, Moogs and Muds, at uni. And I tell people it was university to university. It was only text.
Yeah,
the early days of the internet. But I think MTB Dirt. Could you post photos?
You could post photos, but I think those forums now, if you go back to them, because the photos are hosted somewhere else, they're rarely, ever there. But
there was another one, Rotorburn or something.
Oh yeah, Rotorburn was based in Toowoomba.
That's right. I remember that one.
What was it called? Farkin.net.
Yeah.
FARKIAN or KEN. Before, they had to rebrand it because they basically started to become more mainstream over time. I think that still exists. Rotorburn.
Well, it's funny how like a lot of these platforms, right? What's old is new again. You've got Reddit, which is in some ways pretty similar to these old forums. You've got social media, which is just a different kind of reinvention of the same concepts. It's just nicer technology, but it's still really the same sort of stuff. That's happening.
One of the things that we've kind of touched on before is that you don't need clubs anymore. You can get 5 people together on your own social group, your own social page, and you're off doing your own bike ride or getting together for, to go riding. So there isn't that peer-to-peer transmission of knowledge. There isn't that culture of mountain biking passed on to new users. They don't learn from the peers and the...
True. Yeah. I mean, there's still, it's definitely different to what it used to be. It's funny, like my son's 13 now and he's into mountain biking.
Well done.
Thank you. Yep. It's one of those
because you didn't push it on him.
Well, it's tough as a parent. You don't want to, but it's really cool when you've got something you can do together. And we were riding in Daisy a couple of weekends ago, and it hit me that we were riding on a trail, and there's still some old signs up in Daisy, which is cool. And I just had a moment where I was like, that sign has been there since I have been riding in this place 20 odd years ago, and now we're on this trail, and it's still there. But everything else is, changed. The bikes have changed. The trails, some of them are the same, but a lot of them have changed heaps. But with the skill stuff, he's amazing. He's better than I have ever been or ever will be already. And part of that is because he's the new generation and there's lots of stuff on YouTube and socials. But also one of the cool things we did was he goes to Ride Technics, which is run by Dylan and Dylan Cooper. And that is the same sort of vibe as the club thing. So they do get that face-to-face transfer of knowledge, and then also that little cool community of having friends to go riding with and to have a bit of friendly, rivalry. Well, I can jump this or I can wheelie this far. What can you do? So it's super important, but it is harder to get, I think, these days. You got to go looking for it.
Yeah, as they say, I was going to say the future ain't what it used to be. But look, the kids are the future of mountain biking, and it's interesting to see where they're taking it and how it's going. I mean, we often talk about the future of mountain biking being e-bikes, which pains me greatly. But really, it's the kids. So, I mean, the ride techniques is really bringing kids in and giving them that social experience, the benefit of the knowledge of previous generations of riders, and it's also bringing in broader demographics too. There's a lot more girls involved. There's a lot more women involved.
True, yeah.
It's become much more of a broad-based activity, and it's not just a sport anymore. It's a recreation. It's a lifestyle. So a lot of that's changed.
Yeah, the thing I find really interesting is you see the transition of the sport at that grassroots level too. Like a lot of the kids ride XC and enduro, and they ride their XC bikes like an enduro bike a lot of the time. So like when I was learning, even though I was older, I wasn't trying to hit jumps or do tricks or I guess maybe we didn't see that stuff. We saw it in magazines and on VHS videos, not, on social media. But the thing that blows me away is like how much each generation is getting better, and the skills that the kids have got these days just across the board is pretty mind-blowing. It's cool to see.
Yeah, I think the bikes are orders of magnitude better. Like like my cross-country race bike has a longer, slacker, lower geometry than some of my previous downhill bikes from, 15, 20 years ago. And it's just so much more capable, but there's no margin for error. That's probably the biggest difference in an enduro bike to a cross-country bike. It's like the geometry is fairly similar, but there's only 100, 120 mil of travel, whereas 160, 170, it's just that much more forgiving.
Yeah, okay.
You don't quite land the jump, or you're not quite square. So I think that's progression. That's the nature of it. So, but I do see in the broadening of the base of mountain biking opportunities for people that aren't into the more technical aspects, or they're coming to the sport more mature or more risk averse. And I touched on gravel because that's where we kind of really reconnected with the iconic Brisbane Roubaix. So I don't know. Should we dig into the Brisbane Classics?
Yeah, I was going to ask what your favourite. You said you've not as techie as your son is now at 13, but what's your favourite format? Did you ever get into the gravity style of riding, or have you had? And what is your favourite sort of event to do?
So yeah, got into XCO, but never quite worked it out. I think just didn't resonate with me. Never got warm-ups right, training, and I ended up sort of going more to the marathon stuff, which is where I, each rider goes through their progression, they get into it, they get more serious, and they want to see where they can get to, if they want to compete. So XCO didn't really work with me, but yeah, marathons I ended up having a bit of success, so that's where I gravitated to, and I liked the longer format. And then that led to a bit of road cycling and road racing. But no, I never did any gravity stuff. Didn't have the skills.
No, that's fair. You would have been rubbing shoulders a bit with Hubcap at some events.
Yeah, yep. So Hubcap and I go way back.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. We've had heaps of always bump into him at events. He's a ray of sunshine.
Yep.
Just can't shut the fellow up sometimes.
That's why I thought he was perfect for this.
Exactly. Yeah, but no, marathons was where it's at, and then a bit of road racing as well.
What's your favourite marathon?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? It's hard to beat the Epic for legacy, and it's been around for ages. I just wish it was point to point.
Well, I keep saying it's 20. This year will be 24 years.
Yes, I know where you're going with this.
The 25th anniversary. Look, if you're listening, Screw, on the Saturday, let's have a point to point the day before the Epic. Anyhow, so I'm trying to talk Hubcap into it, or maybe we'll ride up and ride back the next day. Maybe not on the same weekend as the Epic, but yeah, I think it's iconic.
It is iconic.
It'd be nice to revisit the history of it. I mean, I've been sneaking around in the back blocks of Marmar Creek trying to find ways through, and the Razorback and a few of the other iconic
Laidley
ones.
Gap. Is that still open?
Laidley Gap's open. I've been over that on the bike. It's still ridiculous. Red Gap Road. I'm trying to remember. So there's lots of. I'd say that 80% of it's there, 10% of it's overgrown, and 10% of it you may not be able to go through anymore. So it's but there's you don't want to get stuck on some of those narrow roads. I think it's anyhow, avoid the bitumen at all costs. The dirt roads, well, they're narrow, they're winding, they're high speed, there's no shoulder, and there's a lot more traffic 25 years later. So
yeah, that's the fact, isn't it?
You couldn't actually hold an event on them anymore. It's crazy. And I mean,
I'll never say never. We could get some road closures going, and if anyone can do it, Screw's got the resources, right? So.
Oh, look, it's one of the great challenges is that it's multiple councils. So I think it's Ipswich and then it's Somerset Regional. So I think it's both. Are they're still in Ipswich Region on the
HFAB?
Hidden Vale?
Are they part of Scenic? I thought they were Scenic Rim.
Oh,
no,
but
I could be wrong.
There's permissions and road closures. Yeah, back in the day, I don't think so many of those things happened. Things, they're just. Yeah.
Well, it'd be cool to see it back in that somewhat original format.
If not as an event, I think maybe a randonneur.
Yes, yep, that could work.
A brevet.
Well, how's this for a segue, Oppy? You may not be able to change or tell the Epic where and what to do and where to go, but you've got your own events that you've already run a couple of years, and apparently a few new under the belt that you're going to be managing. Would you like to tell us a little bit about how you kind of got into the event management side of things? Why and how?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Completely by accident. But sometimes the best things happen by accident. I think so. A couple of years ago, my background's in software, not in events. But I'd done lots of cool local rides that might not necessarily have been organised events. So, and one of the formats was sort of a Paris-Roubaix tribute ride where we would ride road bikes and find some gravel to add to a road ride. And so, I think there's lots of organised rides, tour to Brisbane, things like that, but nothing really that's kind of got a bit of a unique, fun
character,
a bit of vibe. So, I think 2023, I think might have been the first one, and I just basically organised it from Nunda Crit Track, and it was very, low-key grassroots.
Alley cat style.
Alley cat style is a great way to describe it. Made a brevet card and a map. I think I charged $40. We had some beers and an esky at the end. We might have had some photography.
Ben, yep. Ben went out and did that one.
And so, feedback was really good. I think the thing about it was that I got a really good kick out of it from putting on a good time for people. And that was, gives you lots of warm fuzzies. So that was sort of the impetus to do it the next year.
And it's kind of a low stakes thing for you. Give it a crack and
that's it
right? Works or it doesn't.
Yeah, 100%. And so did it again next year, and then got a few more people. We did a few more things to make it a bit more legit, Finished at a brewery, started at a coffee shop.
That's legit.
Yeah, well, a bit more of a vibe,
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And then people came back and they're like, look, it was good, but can we have something with a bit more gravel or a bit more off-road? And so that was the birth of Brown Snake Gravel. So that was the next event that was added to the roster, and that was we ran for the first time last year, and that was
good numbers too.
It was good fun, yeah. So we started at Newstead there, again at a coffee shop, and riders went west of Brisbane on a combination of bike paths, roads, fire trails, and then back to a brewery for a bit of a celebration and a chance to swap some stories. We had 2 distances too, to give people, be a little bit more inclusive, I guess, and try and get a bit more of a range of people involved. And it was, I guess, that was I got the bug. And then just before Christmas this year, I got a phone call from a lovely gent called Will Levy from Sydney, and he runs Goodness Gravel. And he also runs Two Wheel Tours, which is an overseas cycling holiday company. And he said to me, Cam, it's getting a bit much. You do a good job with the events in Brisbane. How do you feel about taking on 4 events in regional New South Wales, gravel events? And I said to Will, we had a chat about what was involved, and I said, I'll need to think about it. But truth was, I'd already decided on the phone that I was going to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so all of a sudden I'm an event organizer now with 6 events.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jump in and just, have a great time. I remember those early, the Brisbane Roubaix and Brown Snake Gravel, and I was thinking it's a curated experience for people that wouldn't go through those places on their own, or, aren't doing the exploring, don't know where to start. And it's such a fantastic way to introduce people to, Brown Snake Gravel took people into the heart of Jaguar Range National Park where they'd never been before. And it's like, this is just magic. It was.
And most of them came home too, right?
I don't think we lost anyone. I think there were some mechanical retirements maybe, but...
there were no brown snakes from what I've heard.
No, well, there were... The only snakes, hopefully, were the Allen's variety. Yeah.
Yeah. No, everyone was smiling at that event, and I remember being parked just as you come into... where are we? Before you get to Gap Creek Reserve, some of the section before where that probably the steepest pinchy climb on the
I know
whole.
the bit you're talking about. Yeah.
Before you descend into Gap Creek Road, into the reserve, and even trying to get up that hill after, what are they, 70 k's at that point? Some of them who've done the big loop,
Yep.
they were still having a blast. It's an adventure kind of ride.
That's the whole point. Yeah, it's definitely about fun, adventure, connecting with like-minded people, and I think a big part of it is going to places or connecting things up that you might not have known about, and I think that's really cool. Like, if you've been riding around Brisbane for a long time, it's easy to take some of this local knowledge for granted, and it's cool not to gatekeep it. Just to give someone a guided tour, if you like, in an event, to be like, have you been here, to open their eyes to what beautiful riding we've got in the region.
Well, you're well positioned as someone who's done so many events and come away with, I guess, over time you've seen what you like about an event, what you haven't liked about an event. And now you've got all that under your belt and can go, well, this is how I want my events to be. Is there anything that highest priority on the list of how your event will be spoken about? What are you going to be known for?
I think I have been responding to people who've been signing up to the Goodness Gravel mailing list, when I can, and had a rider sign up today, and I just shot back g'day, thanks for signing up. Can I ask what part of the world you're in, and what sort of riding you like, or what appeals to you about events? And the thing that came up was adventure, so that's definitely key. Going somewhere new is also a big part of it, and that can be in your own backyard sometimes. It doesn't have to be a road trip away, but that's a cool weekend or two when you go somewhere new, and having fun. So regardless of whether you're, fit, not fit, racing or want to go fast or, just trying to get around, I think those are things that people can get around and have a great day out. So it's like cooking, you can get the recipe, but it's how you put it together. It's not like a checklist of silver bullets and you've got yourself a great event. Sometimes you'll have all the things that you think you need and something's not quite right or doesn't work,
Sure. You're bound to come up against things that will challenge you that you wouldn't have thought about previously. Anything new you do will have its quirks and challenges, but we wish you all the best. Do you want to plug some of the dates?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So we've got Goodness Gravel Glen Innes is on the 7th of March. That's a Saturday. That's just over 4 weeks away from when we're recording this. There's 3 distances, so we've got 125 Ks, 75 and 35. Goodness Gravel's great. It's got some of the best aid stations going around according to the feedback, so we're going to be carrying over the existing sort of format there. There's donuts, there's savoury shapes, there's chips and pretzels, as well as all your other sports nutrition stuff.
Saying that chips and pretzels aren't sports nutrition?
Well,
who's been lying to me all these years?
I'm just listening going, ticks all my boxes. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's a cool vibe. We've got some live musicians. Glen Innes is a really interesting place. It's 1,000 metres above sea level. You've got all these amazing granite rocky outcrops. It's a really big Celtic capital, so it's got a really strong Scottish heritage. They have some standing stones in town, which is a little bit like a Stonehenge. And when you stand in line with them, you can see where the sun is. It helps. It's basically like a clock, which is really interesting. And then a month later, we've got Brisbane Roubaix. It's the 3rd edition, and the inspiration this year is, I think it's 3. That's what the website says. Maybe I am wrong though.
Yeah, 20.
I think it's 3rd.
Was it? Yes, the 3rd.
I think it's the 3rd.
Sorry, I've got two cards. This will be the. Yeah, anyhow.
I'm getting mixed up with the photography anyway.
That's okay.
Also, we had brown snake in there.
Yeah, might have thrown me. Yep.
And so, trying to find some different inspiration each year. And this year we're going retro. The theme is the 1980s Motorola kit. So we've got a collaboration with Black Sheep Apparel, and they're making a jersey for the event. And we're encouraging riders, if they wish to get dressed up, buy some Larry retro kit off eBay. Turn up on your old steel bike if you're super keen. If you do that,
what do you mean old steel bike? I'm still riding my.
You've got cantilevers that qualifies you. Yep. Down tube shifters, I think, would get extra points.
I've got a lovely Barretto steel road bike, so made in Brisbane by Brett Richardson. So I might have to.
That sounds pretty
have to
special.
get it looked at because it's the quill stem, the alloy quill stem has a crack. And
okay. That could offer some compliance over the bumps, perhaps.
Yes, it might, but motor failure is catastrophic, I believe, is the problem.
True.
I'm glad to see you've got some new inspirations because I've got some down here, inspired by the Brisbane Roubaix.
Okay.
So I might hit you up with the new Brisbane Spring Classics.
Okay.
So, I was thinking, Spring Classic now with 100% more swooping magpies because, the Europeans don't have them, but, no cobbles, just corrugated asphalt conquer the northern monuments. So, from the heights of Wubble to the Sandgate Seas, forget the Magilla Rosa. It's all about the high-vis jersey.
I like it.
So, Milan Sandgate. Because the only thing harder than the climb is finding a park at Shorncliffe Pier.
It's true.
Maybe the Rhonda Van Virginia. Liège, Bagno Liège.
That's better than the original.
Giro de Lutwich.
It's got a ring to it.
I like Giro de Lombardie. Amstel, Gold Coast to Aspley. Maybe not, that's out of our... Nudgy Wevelgem.
I like it. Or Wevelgem, Wavell Heights. Maybe you could work that in there somehow.
Yes, but I mean, Brisbane,
love it.
Brisbane Roubaix or Strata Burnbill. So maybe. Anyhow, I mean, it's a lovely tribute event to the Spring Classics, and timing with the classics happening in European spring. It's our tribute event. I mean, I did suggest the other one was that we need some actual cobbles in the Paris-Roubaix.
There are some in Brisbane Roubaix this year.
Oh,
well,
exciting.
I mean, I think I emailed you my suggestion. Are we in that territory?
Technically, they might be classified more as a paver, but I'm going with cobbles. Yeah.
And my suggestion was we'd go for Cobble Creek.
We have to work hard on how we include that one.
There's a gazetted road at the bottom. So you can actually get into, you can get out the bottom of Cobble Creek. So anyhow, look.
Did we get through the list of events?
Yeah, so we've got 4 more in the...
Oh, sorry.
In the rest of the year. No, that was a very worthwhile tangent, I feel.
But I was going to say, you know what my number one thing is for events? Is pun names. I mean, come on.
Oh, I'm with you there.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a great way of bringing the community together, celebrating the history of cycling that we don't have a lot of cycling culture in Brisbane. I mean,
true.
Brisbane Roubaix is an instant classic.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
No, it is.
Yeah, I think, look, every year I take myself to the local bottle shop and
drink heavily, and then after that he starts throwing darts at the map. We're going here, we're going there.
No, but it's a ritual before the Spring Classics start to acquire a suitable range of Belgian beers. And so, that's all part of it too. But it is a special time of year, and I guess, not necessarily growing up with it as a kid. We always had the Tour de France on in the household, but it wasn't, my dad was like any great Aussie bloke, would watch any sport, but cycling wasn't, a passion in the family. But subsequently, it's such the thing I love about it is there's so much to it, different disciplines, there's the history and the tradition. So it's fun to do little things, around things like Roubaix, it's a bit like Christmas, to make it special.
Yeah,
well, definitely.
I think I'm actually really looking forward to the Spring Classics. I think Van der Poel just won his 8th cyclocross world title.
He did, yeah.
Van Aert's going to be, on the bounce back come Spring Classic time, and it's going to be on for young and old. As every year, I hope for rain during the Paris-Roubaix, bring out the mud and the cyclocrosses all. Well,
as an event organizer, Roubaix is the only one I don't worry about with the weather, because if it rains, it's perfectly on brand, right?
As a photographer, though.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Nah, Kim. Yeah.
But I think the cool thing about the Classics is it's at the start of the season. So you've got the Mountain Bike World Cups kicking off. The calendar's changed a little bit over the years, but I do remember watching Alpstat and some of those early XCO World Cups and the downhill starting as well around the same time. And it was sort of all that excitement of the year getting underway. It's a bit different now with, the calendar's expanded. Things are pretty commercial, so they like to stretch the season out. But it's still, to a lot of people, it is the start of the season. It's the proper start when it's business time. All the stuff beforehand is Mickey Mouse, even if there's UCI points involved.
Well, one of the interesting things was, people used to race. The point of the Spring Classics was to train. They'd had the winter off, and the Spring Classics were how people got back into racing, and people could start the early season races untrained and right into form. That's gone. Now, that's an A race for Van der Poel, the Spring Classic.
Yeah.
So, and there's more money on the line, there's more eyes for TV. It would have been an easy win to win the Spring Classics, but now there's no, do they have an off season?
It's pretty short, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, TDU is a good example. It used to be sort of a bit of an easier race and a holiday if you were from the Northern Hemisphere. Come down, have some easy racing to get your legs back under you, but now it's super intense and it's just as hard and fast as, a lot of the other races.
So were you down in Adelaide? Do you want to
go down to TDU? Yeah.
Tour Down Under for those of us who aren't used to TLAs.
Yes, good point.
Thank you. 3-letter acronyms.
Adelaide's great for riding. I'd forgotten that. It's been a while since I'd been down there. I've done some gravel trips, a bit of road stuff. There's just so much variety on the doorstep of the city. And it's just very picturesque as well. So I often explain it to people in Brisbane who haven't been. Sort of imagine if there were 20 different ways up Nebo and Glorious, and every couple of kilometres there was a little village with a great coffee shop. And then on the backside there was just as many options to get down and then back to town. So it's just the variety down there. There's so many different loops to do. The gradients also are a little bit kinder. So I'm not sure, whether the southern states got the good surveyors and Brisbane got the surveyors with a wicked sense of humour back in the day when they were planning where all the roads would go. But, down there 4 or 5% is the standard gradient. There's none.
Well, the history of that is that in a lot of our forestry up here, the roads that are there now are legacy of logging with machine. So
Right.
they would fall trees to ridge lines and then snig them up and then up the ridges. So getting in and out, the roads just short and steep. But in the earlier logging, you had horse and bullock, so you couldn't go up the roads straight up the ridges and straight up the hills. So yeah,
There you go.
and that's a common thing. And you go to a lot of overseas countries and European climes that are just lower grades because they were made for horse and cart. So, unfortunately, there's no way but the hard way when you go to Nebo.
Well, the good thing is when you ride in these places, the rides feel easy because you're used to riding around here.
Oh, that's like when we talked about Nebo. It's a rider classic. It's
It
an
is.
initiation. If you've done we've still got to get Lachlan on the Nebo. I did suggest maybe we just shuttle him to the top and he can ride down because it's almost there's a lot of climbing on the way back down.
There sure is, yeah. It's one of those ones. The first few times you do it, you think, "Oh, yeah, great at the top now." Quite often, if I'm really buckled, I'll go down the road because it's easier.
I've been through there plenty of times. Trail runs, lots of trail runs that go through there. But
That you were photographed, just to be clear. Yeah, we weren't doing the trail runs.
yeah,
Maybe a live broadcast. You could do the pod
the
from.
reception sucks.
All I'm hearing is excuses.
We could cut it together, and it doesn't have to be live.
That's right. Yeah, we've talked about. I really want to do a
Here's
PVRT podcast where
Okay.
we're riding along, having a chat. Just got to figure out something.
Well, I know someone who's got all the equipment.
I want to get a quad cycle. Like the golf cart 4-person with.
Did I send you? I saw one on
'cause
Marketplace. Yeah,
Because I could see
Nearly
the 4
bought
of
it.
us doing that on the BVRT.
I nearly bought it. I also have the trailer, which has this gear's running like out to the trailer right now, all the cameras, and we can sit in the trailer and do at an event, post-event or pre-event.
That's cool.
We can. So maybe
Yeah, I like the idea.
viewers will see a different. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see a different scene next time you watch.
Maybe post Brisbane B&E, Brisbane Roubaix, maybe.
Yeah, that's
Bring the trailer to
that's
the
an
pub.
idea.
I'll just halfway along. I'll just have the trailer and interview as you go past.
Vox Pops. Somewhere at the top of a big hill.
We didn't get through your list.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's the best thing about podcasts, isn't it? So there's 4 other events in New South Wales. We're finalising the calendar at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit of a stay tuned situation.
cool. Yep. And what are some of your favourite SEQ gravel rides that you've done?
It's hard to beat. Boona's great. Scenic Rim. Even Kilcoy's good. I really like Monsaldale Road. So Oppy's nodding. Yeah, that's.
I've not done it.
Oh,
I
there you
know
go.
where it is.
Okay, yeah, you can link up to Jimna. It's a beautiful valley, and then a climb up to Jimna. There's the.
I'd start at Jimna and go the other way.
You've got to get back to the car though.
No, you ride up to Jimna, back down Linville, back to the car.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monsaldale's great because you can go to Jimna or you can head over to Linville, or you can even do the big loop, which is all the way up to the top of the Western Branch, which is where the Brisbane River starts. And if you're really keen, you can keep going to Nanango that we were talking about before. That's a really cool loop.
See, I know these places. I've driven in vehicles to all these places, and I have ridden Eastern Branch Road with a bunch of students on a trip.
Yep.
So I know how pretty the place is, and I'm itching to get there on a bike on like a less busy schedule.
Yep.
And just cruise through some of these places because they're so scenic. That's what gravel riding's all about, right?
It is, yeah. And I think the cool thing is when you know maybe history's not the right word, but you've got some perspective about what it is. When you're riding that road, you're crossing a creek. I think it's 27 times on the Western Branch Road, and then that's Brisbane River. So that's kind of cool that you're, when the penny drops, I've taken my son out there and I'm like, we're crossing the Brisbane River here, and he's like, wait, what? So that gives it some relevance. There's lots of great stuff. And it's the whole experience. It's not just the ride; it's the scenery that we're talking about, and then the country pubs, and you always run into characters out there. It's like, how far have you come? Where'd you start? How far? I remember being down at a place called Deepwater, which is 70k south of Tenterfield on one ride, and we were there at the start of June, and it's at elevation, so it's pretty cold. This particular day was very wet, pretty miserable, and I got a flat tire. I was on my XC bike and couldn't patch it. So I tried to plug it, that didn't work. Put a tube in, did the old muesli bar, like the $5 note trick to try and make a boot, and that sort of got me a couple of K down the road. And eventually I just had to ride the rim for, I think it was like 20 kilometres, and we rolled into this little town, Deepwater. It's got a little brewery in a shed. That's why we'd picked that destination, a motel and a pub. I think there's 2 pubs actually. And we rolled in, drowned as rats, freezing cold, and got talking to the locals, having a beer, and this farmer, this old cocky, we were having a good chat for about 20 minutes, and I was telling him what had happened, and I didn't think this guy knew anything about bikes, and next second he says, I think I've got an old GP 5000, all weather, a gator skin at home. And I was like, what? So he disappeared in his ute down to his shed, and 20 minutes later he came back with his tyre, and it fit on the mountain bike rim, and it got me home the next day. It was really, really cool.
Oppy,
Oh, okay. Look,
I'm just looking at you. You're a gravel rider. What's your attraction to it?
Mountain biking is my preference, but I am a lifelong cyclist, so I will commute. I'll ride in the dirt, now called gravel. It's just branding.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I think that it's such a great way of building the base activity of cycling, and it's accessible for people. One of the great things about gravel that's so attractive is on these back roads that are gravel, you're away from cars. So you don't need to have the skill of mountain biking. It doesn't have to be high consequence, downhill. It's just, getting out and seeing the scenery. But I'm interested, what's your definition of gravel? Because it means different things to different people, like adventure bike, a gravel bike, a cyclocross bike, mountain bike. What's gravel to you?
Well, for me, before gravel bikes were a thing, like we were talking about earlier, if there was a road, you go and ride it. And I remember doing Audax rides or rides with mates. And so I had a few mates who were into, longer stuff that's sort of become more popular. I always thought they were crazy.
It's an age thing, mate.
Yeah.
You mature into gravel and long-distance marathons.
But I remember the chat would go around to be like, this is a ride for a 28mm tyre. And so that's what we rode. If we were doing smooth gravel, and if it was rough, you'd ride your mountain bike. But I was also the guy on the group ride who'd be, I'd see a tiny bit of single track off to the side of the road, and I'd be, off the road and onto that, and everyone would think you were crazy. But I think the thing for me is it keeps it fresh, right? If you're just riding one discipline, it's easy to get stale. And it makes you feel like a kid, especially when you're riding something new. You know, you're like, oh, where's this go? And so it's hard to beat that feeling. You know, if you're doing, for me, Nudgee Beach is probably my go-to road loop, and I've done it millions of times. It's still great because it's off the road and you know what you're going to get, but there's nothing beats going somewhere that you haven't been before, where you've got to, you know, look at a map before you go. You're looking at heat maps to see if things can connect up. So the experience is actually not just the bike bit, it's the other stuff around it. You know, the planning, where are we going to stay? What's the best pub in town? What beers have they got on tap? You know, how big are the chicken palmies there? You know, what toppings do they do? It's all that sort of stuff, which adds on to the actual riding experience, you know.
I believe they call that the spirit of gravel. So do you what's your take on some of these events now that are becoming, there's pros involved and there's drafting and, you know, like a lot of the gravel you see in the state, like there's a gravel world champs now.
Yes.
You know, it's I think, what's your take on that, on the racing of gravel? Is it detracting? Is it building? Is it just something separate to the core experience of what gravel is to you?
It's a good question. I think there's bits that are, it's a cop-out answer. There's good bits and bad bits, right? Like the good bit is that that's where America, to a large extent, is focusing its budget. So in terms of where the money's going at the moment is gravel. Road racing seems to be dying a bit over there. You know, XCO and XCM's not as popular either as it used to be. You're getting a lot of pros who are mountain bikers. You know, someone like Payson McKelvin, and Cole Patton, you know, these guys were mountain bikers and now they're gravel pros because that's where the big contracts are, and they're earning pretty big money. So it's cool that the industry is sustaining, you know, jobs for riders and support staff and people who work in marketing and product development. It's always sad when other things fall out of favor, or, you know, road racing, for example. It's sad to see races like Tour of Utah disappear. It's cool that there's still things like the Donnyville Classic, you know, Leadville, even though that's kind of a gravel race now, they're still kicking.
What they've banned drop bars, it's back to mountain bike roads now at Leadville.
So I think I like that it's something new, and I think people like to hate, right? So it's easy to say, you know, to focus on the negatives. But the sport needs to change, and it's cool to see new aspects of it. Otherwise, we'd get bored because it'd just be the same thing all the time. Yeah.
I think that the growth is in participation. Like, I wouldn't like to see, you know, gravel racing take over the spirit of gravel participation. Like it's the adventure. It's going somewhere new. Whereas I think, you know, some of the pros, it's about the prize money, and they're not out there enjoying themselves. It's a professional race, you know.
Yeah.
They're there to do a job.
Well, I think it's potentially the more dangerous than other forms of racing, right? It's road racing on gravel. So I don't know if you guys have done that, but it's actually really sketchy riding in a bunch, going really quickly, like off-road. If the road is, you know, loose over hard and you've got some descents and corners, it's easy to rail it when you're out there feeling good. You know, you've got your mojo, a bit like when you're on the mountain bike. But if it's your job and you have to be at the front of the race on a day where maybe you don't feel like it, or you've got too much PSI in your tyre, the consequences, I feel, are a lot more than compare it to an XCO, for example, where there's some really big technical features, but there's a bit more space between riders. You get a chance to practice the course lots before the race. I reckon it's pretty dangerous.
There's some interesting discussion in the pro peloton at the moment about reducing speeds, limiting gearing, because, you know, their descents are now places to make a gap, to make a difference. To, you know, people are attacking on descents that never used to happen, and so you know, someone had one of the pros had a pretty nasty 100k an hour crash just last week.
Yeah, was that in Middle East somewhere? It was pretty horrific. Yeah.
And one of the things that I've noticed with actually I think it might have been the gravel national titles up at Noosa a couple of years ago, you can pick the fit roadies and you can pick the mountain bikers.
Yeah.
There aren't really gravel specialists yet. But, you can see people who cannot go around corners on a gravel bike at speed, and you're like, yeah. But I think that's at the front, though. Once a few 20 or 30 people back, it's not that, just so people don't freak out, it's not that bad.
No, that's it, right? Yeah, we're talking about the pros
We're talking about the front,
like the Lifetime Grand Prix series. Yeah.
well, it's not, I would say it's not just pros, it's the front.
Yeah.
Because people, yes, the pros are going really fast.
You're
but
right.
There's people still attacking
Yeah.
at the front of any race.
Yeah. Well, I remember doing Noosa Enduro gravel a couple of years ago and racing it, and there was a section of single track that we were flying through. And I mean, I knew the trail because I'd ridden it a few times, but there were water bottles going everywhere. There were bikes going everywhere. There were tires exploding. It was absolute carnage. And I remember thinking, this is fun, but anything could go wrong at any moment.
The worry, I'm not too worried about my own incident. I'm worried about someone taking out my front wheel.
That's it, right?
Just smack on the ground.
But when you're riding that close to the person in front of you, sometimes you can't see the root or the rock. So there is an element of you have control, but not that much. You've almost just got to commit and do the best you can, looking ahead.
It's a skill to look through the rider in front of you.
Yeah, but you don't see everything, right? Especially when you're at max heart rate and seeing spots.
I remember the start of the single track section off. I think the one you're talking about. Yeah, there were flat tires and there were bottles, and yeah, it was great time. Because as a mountain biker, I'm like, yeah, but I'm running an extra 10 psi on my tires, so I can hit anything. I'm like, I'm not going to get a flat. There were people who got flats because they were running, 35 mil tires at 20 psi, and I'm like, amateurs.
How much does the Noosa Enduro transition between fire road and single trail? Is there much single trail at all? Or?
Well, they ran two events. There was the Noosa Enduro, and then there was the Noosa Gravel. And one year the gravel was the national gravel champs. But I think they didn't run the gravel last year.
It's run by NX Sports now, so the same guys who do a lot of the triathlons and Tour de Brisbane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no swim leg though. No. There is some walking, I can tell you.
Yeah, they do gravel and mountain bike. The mountain bike trails, they don't use Tawantin or any of those trails, so they're pretty. You could ride all of them on a gravel bike. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough.
Yep.
They're not a lot of fun. There's a couple of downhills out the back that are quite technical and challenging on a gravel bike, but it's not.
A couple of creek crossings too in that.
Yeah, there can be. I mean, the Noosa Enduro used to be around in the 2000s, and one of the reasons it stopped was because it used to rain every year. So, I mean, it's rainforest and beautifully green. You don't get that without a bit of precipitation. So, yeah, invariably there's some creek crossings and some mud around. Yeah.
Oh, it's still a challenge. I mean, I think that year that the national titles was up there, it rained, and maybe 2 years ago it rained again, and but that's part of the challenge. But they have to reroute the whole course because sometimes parts of it are unrideable mud, like knee deep, just swamp. Mm. But yeah,
it's always a head cracker when if you're racing or you're somewhat competitive, lying in bed, the night before the event, going to sleep as the rain's hammering down outside. It can either put you off, or you'd be like, half the field's going to be defeated already. It just depends what mood you're in.
Mm-hmm. I did it with rim brakes.
Yeah, right.
Just commit. I mean, but the thing is, it's like, oh, well, I know that I'm going to be pulling the chain off and fully degreasing. I'm going to be like pulling out the bottom bracket to empty the water out of the frame. I'm going to, and it's like, well, that means new brake pad.
Well, I was going to say, that's the thing, isn't it? It's fun to slide around in the mud, but you can just hear the dollars, disappearing with each pedal stroke.
Well, this is why I actually like cable drivetrains, not battery drivetrains. Because,
okay.
1XT wireless derailleur is, almost 3 cable-driven derailleurs. So it's like, these are consumable parts. I've done it single speed a couple of times. Or, I've got the luxury of like, well, I'll be taking the training bike this time. just for those reasons.
Might be time to get the single speed out again.
Well, there's a double-header cyclocross round at Walloon, June or July this year.
Okay.
So it's time to put drop bars back on the on one single speed.
The last time I rode it was the 2016 Epic, I think. Yeah.
Has he done cyclocross at Walloon before?
I've raced my cyclocross bike there on, I think, at least 3 occasions. But no, they haven't. There's no. One year we had a cyclocross class. I think there were 3 of us. But it's perfect for cyclocross.
It's flat.
It's
Part of
winding.
Guaranteed podium. Sign me up.
Well, we're talking a long time ago, and yes. But, it'll be interesting to see how that runs. But, cyclocross.
This is at JR's?
JR's at Walloon. So
very cool. It's a good spot for it, I reckon. Is this part of a Queensland
part
run?
of the national series, like a doubleheader of the national series.
There you go.
I think the challenge will be for people how they can make it not too much single track, because you need passing.
That's a good point.
And what's the beauty of a cyclocross race is actually the visibility of it. We ran one at Muraree. We've run them at Nunda.
Yep.
Through Hepatitis Creek, or whatever they like to call it. That's what we called the creek. We had it at Ipswich one year, and it rained. And I think there was cross connection between the stormwater and the sewer. But,
well, Nunda's next to the cemetery, so that's an added challenge.
It's below the water table.
I was just going to ask a couple of questions about your moving professionally into event management, and some of the challenges you might find. I would say a lot of people take for granted how much goes into an event if you don't know the behind the scenes. Are there any things that, or I guess tell us from your perspective, just how big of a job you've got ahead of you as you take on these new events?
Yeah, I think it's like anything, you underestimate how much is involved, and when you do something small for the first time, it's not that much, but the bigger things get. For example, if you run 2 courses, a long and a short, then it means that you have to talk to your lovely photographer and say, how are we going to photograph everyone if they're leaving at different times and they're going to different places? Mm. So
trigger traps.
It's just death by 1,000 cuts, because there are so many decisions, and you want to maintain the experience for the rider. And so I think the thing that I've noticed, and I guess maybe how I've ended up here, is that over time, event organisers, sometimes it feels like they start making decisions for practical reasons, or sort of the least path of resistance. And I completely get it, because it's hard, and it's easy for me to say because I'm just starting out on my journey and I've still got the enthusiasm. But yeah, it's definitely, you need to care, and you need to have some empathy. It helps being a rider, so that you can go the extra mile and do the special things. It's at the moment I'm a one-man band, so you're head of every department. You're filling out the traffic management plans, the risk assessments, you're working with all the stakeholders, and you're responding to emails with, someone emails and says, the dog ate my homework, or can't make it, or what tyres should I run?
You're wearing all the hats.
And it's cool, but sometimes you get through a day and you've got through heaps of tasks, but there's just as many to do tomorrow.
Yeah. Have you been given any advice on how all those hats are worn on race day?
Not specifically, no. Maybe I should ask.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no harm in asking people and getting their opinion, and then you pick from the bits you want.
Well, go
forward with experience.
That's one thing I've learned. I think old age helps there. You swallow your ego and you ask. So, with getting sponsors and things like that, that's something that I've hit some people up in the industry with more experience than me, and they've been really good in suggesting how to go about things. The other thing that's hard is pricing stuff. So I always feel guilty, charging, and events are expensive. Like, they're expensive to run, but they're also expensive to attend, and it feels like often they're too expensive, right? But when you see the back end of it, you understand where the cost comes from. Mm-hmm. So that's always a challenge, and I think you've got to try and strike a balance between delivering a really good day out for people, but also covering your costs, and that's that can be a bit that's something that keeps you up at night.
For sure, and they're all those for Goodness Gravel to New South Wales, right? So a bit of travel for you.
Bit of travel, yep.
Yeah. Have you? This is jumping way ahead. Have you
course,
thought of?
go for it.
Got any more ideas rattling in your head of what else can I bring to Brizzy/SEQ region or abroad?
Yeah, well, I think the format of Goodness Gravel at the moment, as we were talking off air, is they go to regional areas where the local government authorities are trying to encourage some travel and some tourism. And that's great because it gets people to new areas. And a lot of the times the roads out there are amazing. They're quiet, the scenery's great, and you get to have a beautiful weekend away. I think it's important to keep things fresh, so to move the locations around. And one thing I'm really keen on is going to the best places rather than necessarily where the councils want you to go. So that's a cool opportunity to, leverage some previous experience and also maybe some new trips. When I bought the business before Christmas, I was already planning a road trip. So I made some adjustments and went to some of the places that are on the calendar, like Orange in New South Wales, which I was really blown away by. I hadn't been before. There's lots of great riding there, mountain biking and gravel riding. But I think it would be really cool to get a big gravel event near Sydney and near Brisbane. So we've got Brown Snake Gravel, but because of where it is, we can't cater for people who want to race or have a time. But maybe if we go an hour outside of Brisbane, we can do something where we can cater to those needs. So that's all the sort of the things that are bouncing around in my head.
Well, I'm going to pitch one for you. Stanthorpe, Passchendaele. Bring in the passion.
Yeah.
Passchendaele.
More puns. I love it. You're missing your calling.
No, I'm not. It's not my day job.
Stanthorpe's great. That whole region's, beautiful. Yeah.
I don't want to whine on about it. But,
I guess would you have to be careful? There's a Tenderfield race there as well.
I guess yes. Yeah. It's a little bit further north, but the difference is there's a sweet spot where people will travel to that's far enough you can get there in half a day and back. But if you're coming for an event, it's far enough that a lot of people will stay. So but it's not too far. It can't be a whole day's drive. You have to be able to reach your destination close to a population centre. So there's like it's like a Venn diagram, but it's circles of like how far people will travel, where where's a town of size that's sufficient to have overnight stay capacity. So it's got to have a couple of motels and a pub.
Yeah.
And that people can get to close to a population centre. So back in the day, we had the Mount Perry District Tourist Association.
Yes.
They were behind the Mount Perry Classic. So it was the Tourist Association that ran it. But it's a long drive, and there's nothing there. Everyone had to camp.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily the market anymore. I think, but like I say, around Sydney, 2-3 hour drive. But I think there's also a risk of gravel's flavour of the month, saturation. So having a couple of core events that are yours and that are iconic. I'm going to give you some advice now. Don't go too big too soon. Because for the South East Queensland context, two events like the Brown Snake and Brisbane Roe Bay, they're very similarly aligned. I don't think there's space for more events without starting to dilute that in this region.
Yeah, so I think it would be something where you might run one year and one the next. Or you might run a north course and a south course if you keep something in the same location. But you're definitely right. You don't want to have too many things. It's too hard to organise, keep track of, and you're also going to saturate things. So I think it's important to play the long game, to do the right thing, to find the good locations and deliver as good an experience as you can for the best value. That's the challenge or the goal. Yeah.
So I think for an event you can build, and it's a 2 or 3 year cycle. The first one's a bit of a pilot. Second year, all the people that missed out on the going the first time, come along, but by the third year, people, then it's time to start researching that next place to take that experience. 'Cause people are pretty fickle.
Yes. Yep. Well, and you're competing with, there's lots of other options out there. Might not necessarily be a gravel ride, but there might be an XC race on the same weekend, or something else. So you've got to keep it fresh and give people a reason to come.
It's a challenge to fit with the disciplines. When you're a multidisciplinary rider and you start trying to fit events in, it becomes more and more challenging. But I have noticed, I think overall numbers seem to be much smaller than these days than when there were less events.
Yeah.
The rise and fall of 24-hour racing comes to mind.
Yeah, it seems like there's spikes though. I see it in trail running as well. And you'll see numbers dwindling in a series that's been around for a while, but then massive amount of people at this other event that's popped up. I think
novelty.
Yeah, novelty. Yeah.
People one of my major goals with racing marathons is to go somewhere new. I'm questioning, especially as events get more expensive. It's like, well, do I want to do another Noosa Enduro? I've done it for probably the last 5 years in a row. Is it? I feel chained to the epic. It's just such a legacy. I don't know. I'd be in the teens for numbers of epics I've done. It's like it's an institution. But at some point, I was like out there last year going, maybe I'd go and do something else. Just the novelty, the engagement. I mean, So last year I went and did the Roto 100.
Oh yeah,
Waka 100 in Rotorua. I'd never done it before. And it was amazing. They had over 2,000 participants.
Wow.
So they have
That's cool.
They have the 50K on the Saturday, and then they have the 100K and the 100 mile.
They have a 160, don't they? Yeah.
It was 172.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Wow. They start at 4 in the morning under lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I even the 100 was super challenging. It was way harder than the epic. Because it's so much single track. Yeah. And the descending on the single track is brutal.
Isn't it funny when you're considering these events? You're like, let's see how you're looking at the more single track, the better. On race day or ride day, it gets to a stage where you're like, oh God, what I'd give just for a bit of fire trail or bitumen.
Yeah. I did a 4-hour down in northern New South Wales not that long ago, and I'd forgotten that I'd increased the pressure in my suspension because I'd done a short course and hadn't dropped it down. I had to stop at about 70 k's out of 90 or something because I'd bruised my hands. Just endless laps of single track. So, careful what you wish for.
It's true.
But I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and do it again, and with an understanding of what it takes and what the right setup is, so to conquer that one. If you're interested, you want to come over.
It's been on my bucket list. Yeah, I've been to Rotorua, but not for a long time. Yeah,
I've said Rotorua is Whistler for old men. It's great. You can ride lots of places, but it just doesn't have the consequence of going over to ride Whistler.
Yeah.
But, well, if you're interested, mate.
Yeah.
Well, there is an A-line. The downhill track in Roto, actually, I think they're rebuilding central part of it because it got logged, but it's insane.
Okay.
You see that pond, right? And see that mound of dirt over there. Well, that's a takeoff. And that mound of dirt over there on the other side of that pond is the landing. And you're like, it's enormous. It's so big. To the casual observer, you don't realise it's a trail.
Wow.
What about Queenstown? Is it a bit techier and steeper? And
I've not been down to Queenstown.
You haven't been
the southern.
It does have a gravity rep, I think. Yeah.
Very different. What makes Rotorua so special is the dirt. It's volcanic loam, and it's free draining. It's got enough clay in it to pack, but it's sandy. It's crumbly, gorgeous and moist, and you can shape it into beautiful berms, and it packs. And when enough people ride it, the clay, it's like you've got a shiny line. It's like a luge. And then once it goes hard, and then it starts to break up, and then holes form, and then the holes get deeper and deeper. and the holes are rock hard. and then water fills those holes up, and you're riding a jackhammer.
Well, the ruts are where everyone else rides. That's the motto, right?
It's so. I was blown away by the change in the forest. Some of the trails that they age out and they get logged, and so they don't worry about. They're not always rebuilding the trails there. It's a very different model to what we have in South East Queensland, where most of our trail centres are conservation reserves. So they don't necessarily rebuild them to be buff again. And some of the trails that had been my favourite and were beautiful things, they're also on the shuttle run. And I went back, and it's been many years since I was there, and they were absolutely destroyed. They were unrecognisable and zero fun on a cross-country bike. I was like, oh, that's why everyone's riding the new trails, because these old ones are just shuttled to death.
There you go.
What's on your calendar? How busy do you think you'll be with these? With your plate at the moment with events, are you going to be? Is this full time plus for you? Do you think this year coming? Or
yeah, it's full time.
Have time for some events yourself riding.
Got to stay sane. Yeah, the next one is Beechworth Gravel Classic or whatever it's called. So that's in mid-April. I mean, the best thing these days, right, is that this counts as a business trip. So yeah, still trying to squeeze in things where I can.
Research,
exactly. TDU was cool. Obviously, I didn't get to rattle gravel, unfortunately, but got around to all the activations and see what the brands were doing, which was really interesting.
You missed out on, was it Alejandro Valverde? Wasn't he down there?
Roman Bardet.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, different. But yeah.
So I think look, I'll be doing the usuals up here in South East Queensland. I'll be back to the Epic every weekend or every other weekend. We're out at one of the trail networks around here. So that's...
And what's your local? What's your local or favourite?
Yeah, well, I was talking about this with my son Ted the other day. I think Gap Creek's probably the OG for me, and it's still the one I enjoy the most. Even though it's changed, quite a bit over time. Got a soft spot for Daisy. Used to live down the road from Bunya and Ironbark, so it's different as well. It's good for the skills because it's pretty skatey. You got lots of loose rock there. Used to ride the fully rigid single speed there a fair bit, and that would keep your skills sharp. Yeah, it's hard. We're lucky. We've got so many areas. I've had on my bucket list. There's probably too many trails to do this now, but to ride all of the trails in one day.
Well, Anna Beck did an article for A&B where they rode all of the parks in one day, and not every trail, but they were pretty broken afterwards.
I'm sure they were. I've seen it done around the world. Durango's a good one. I've seen a few of the mountain bike pros do it. So you never know.
Here's a concept. The Three Peaks of Brisbane.
Okay.
So Three Peaks is an iconic cyclocross race.
Yes, I know the one. Yep.
Yeah. So they end up hoofing their bikes up over some enormous hills.
So what are we talking? Cravat? Cootha? Nebo?
Well, it's whatever, maybe. But
it feels like it needs something else in there.
Well,
Lacey's Creek.
Well, maybe it's
Clover's Lookout.
Oh yeah,
and then down the old downhill track just to finish off.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be, if you're going to call it the Three Peak, it's got to have just about mandatory portage. So there's some ways to get to Mount Nebo that are offensively steep by bicycle. So I reckon something like start in the CBD, Mount Gravatt, cross to Cootha, and Nebo the hardest way possible, just to keep people angry. And I don't know whether and finish back in the CBD. Why not? Anyhow,
very cool.
I don't think I've done all of Mount Cootha in a day, all of the single track in Mount Cootha in a day. That's doable.
Yep.
It's a big day out, but the challenge is that to actually ride all of it, you have to do a few out and backs, and it's actually the challenge becomes route selection and plotting how to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because otherwise you end up here and you're like, oh, I missed that bit down there, and do I go back and do it? And
What's the best trail in Brisbane?
well, this is our question to you.
Is this like there's a photography question? The best camera you have is the one that's with you, that you brought. To me, it's like I was thinking before when you're saying your favourites. My favourite is the one that's going to get me fit, and it's the easiest and it's the closest. It's not gotten me fit yet, but it's getting there. And yeah, it's out the door. So it's favourite because I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
but that doesn't make it the best.
That works. Yeah, different reasons. Memories, maybe, like.
Yeah. So do you have are you going to, come on, nail your colours to the mast here? Your favourite?
It's probably got to be Rocket Frog.
Lovely.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. I've ridden a road bike up it, mountain bike down it heaps of times. It's one of where I took my son riding for the first time, when he started properly mountain biking.
I'm quite chuffed with that because I had a big hand in realigning it a few years ago. So
it's cool.
And there's a few little, features that if you've got some local knowledge, you can have fun with.
It's probably it's had many hands on it. So originally, we've told this story a few times. It was called Lantana.
Yeah.
And at the very end, it used to go straight up the fall line to, I think, is it Highwood Road or is it Dillon Road at that end? But
it was back when Gap Creek Road was dirt.
2002.
Was dirt. It was gravel.
It was corrugation. But that paralleled a fence line, and that was originally a horse trail that they used to ride the boundary. So actually, Death Adder, that trail along that fence line there was originally a horse trail as well. But yeah, when it came across in the process of becoming an authorised trail, that fall line bit had to go because it was heavily eroded and unsavable. And so the challenge became to realign the top probably 2/3 because we had to bring it up out of the creek. And that's why it's on the side hill.
Yep.
And during the planning phase of that was 2004. But it had been dry. It was the Millennium Drought. It was dry for years. And had no concept of how muddy some of that land was because the side slope's steep, it's all shaly, and then there's this, it becomes much flatter. And I'm like, it's a great place to build. But all of that alluvial dirt just holds water like nobody's business. But in the top end there on the 46 aerial photograph, you could see that there was a logging coop. It's clearfelled in the top end of the gully, and it was just a sea of lantana. And so one of the compromises, one of the benefits of building a track through there was allowing weed control to get in there. So part of what selected that route was to cut just straight through a wall of 2.5 metre high lantana, and we discovered these little pockets of rainforest. An ecotone is what they would call it. It's not an ecosystem,
okay,
but it's a more dense, closer to the creek. And so we deliberately took the trail into and under the canopy, back out into the open, and switching across the creek right up to the top end there. And the top end is actually old landfill. When you get to the roundabout at Dillon Road and Highwood Road, the land just off the roundabout is level, and then there's a steep slope. And if you look from the single track in the start there, you can still see the cars that are pushed into the landfill and domestic tipping that happened in the top end there.
Wow, there you go. Didn't know that. We've learnt something new.
Yeah, so it's I mean,
it's not the most gnarly track, but it's I've ridden it so many times. Lots of great memories. Yeah, hard to beat.
So I was going to say the top half was constructed by World Trail originally, and then volunteers redid the bottom, and I think Trailworks have had a go, and I can't think of who's working on it at the moment, but it's
had a bit of work recently. Yeah,
it's evolving,
and the climbing trails too. Yeah,
the Crebra climb
is really cool now. That's really great.
the current stewardship of that program is really, and that's metre and a half wide off-road wheelchair compatible trail. So it's still a disability
cool.
access, which is great. It's broadening the sport, and it's also a great way to get people up and do a loop of Rocket Frog. It's high on my list of favourites. I won't say it's my favourite, but it's certainly Oh,
what's your favourite?
What's my favourite? Depends on the day of the week.
Well, what are we today? It's a Friday.
Friday. Look, I love Ferny Forest for the ferns. I love getting up into Mount Nebo on Light Line Road just for the epic views. It's not even single track. But I tell you what, when you're coming the other way at speed, that fire road seems very narrow. Spring Mountain, probably Pyros on Spring Mountain. That's iconic sand and sandstone with sandstone slabs that you don't see anywhere else.
Not super common, is it? Yeah.
No, it's not well ridden. You've got to learn to ride the sand. It's good cyclocross practice. Castle
Hill's got a bit of slab.
Yeah, really rough down in the creek there. Yeah. I started in Castle, but it's I haven't been riding there at the moment because the grass makes me itchy. But I go through phases with Castle. I'll ride there a bit and then I'll get dizzy. It's very difficult to do more than about 20 k's at Castle.
It's pretty
Hill.
amazing what they've jammed in there. Yeah, it's very impressive.
I would love to go back and ride Whites Hill as it was, which is not sanctioned trails, but I grew up next to the reserve. I'd love to just go back to how one of the trails, Two Bridges, how it was back when I first started riding.
Yeah.
Sketchy, rocky.
Same just as West Mount Cotton, where I explored as a kid.
Yeah. And my next favourite that you now also, I don't think, can access is one of the Tamrookum trails.
Oh, yeah.
Was running some enduros and stuff there, which was super, super fun. Yeah. Did you decide what you listed a few?
Day of the week.
I thought you'd work a bad pun in there somewhere, but
no, it's serious business. Favourite trail. I'm going to say it's Pyros.
Okay.
Because that's where I start. Have really fond memories. I mean, I first rode to White Rock on a BMX. And I was in primary school type thing. So it's I feel a strong connection to place up there, and go to the top of Spring Mountain, and I can see, that's where the house was over there, and and I remember where the trails used to be because some of those are now grown over. So we used to have a trail up there, and it's all gone now, and now Ripley Housing Estate is chewing into the back of what a trail we used to call North Face, which is named after a lot of iconic skiing places in Europe. The North Face is always the one that doesn't get as much sunlight, so it's more rugged. So that's pretty iconic too. I don't think that's really rideable at the moment. But, let's say Pyros.
Better let Cam go in a minute.
Yeah.
It's been an awesome chat. I think you've got a couple of successful years ahead. I think putting the riders' experience at events as the foremost at your events, and I think with your marketing and pun experience.
I think he brings a certain gravitas to the table.
Yeah, well, Oppy, have you got your resume handy, mate? Because we're hiring.
His advice tonight was
Punster in chief. Is that a position?
No, it's been great to be on. Thanks for having me and to share some stories.
I look forward to seeing you at the Hell of the North Gate.